Hey, it's Carrie Flatlaw here for this week's Friday Fire at Remax Real Estate Lethbridge and carrieflatlaw.com. Once you get an accepted offer on your house, should you break out the champagne and fist pump the air and celebrate? And the answer is no, because there's a lot more to accepting an offer and actually getting to closing day than meets the eye. So it's not like HGTV, it's not like what happens on so-called reality TV where they just make a couple phone calls and you send over the offer and the house is sold. It does not work like that. Now, once in a long while, we do get what we call cash offers, no conditions. And in that case, once everybody signs the paperwork, that is considered legally a final sale. However, in Lethbridge, the vast majority of the offers we get have conditions attached, otherwise known as conditional offers or offers with contingencies. So what that means is in the contract, the buyer is attaching specific conditions that the buyer has to meet before they can go final on the purchase. The most common conditions that we see in offers to purchase are financing and home inspection. There are lots of other conditions you can put into an offer. The homeowner can even put a condition in the offer if they want, subject to the seller finding a suitable property, that kind of thing. But the most common thing we see is financing and home inspection. And really that's to protect the buyer. And we always recommend those conditions unless the buyer does not want a home inspection and the buyer is fully able and ready to pay for that property and does not require any approvals for bank financing. So pretty rare. How does a conditional offer actually work though in practice? What I always tell my homeowner clients is that this is actually the most stressful part of the sale. So you've done all this work, you've gotten your house ready, it looks amazing, we've staged it, we've marketed it, you've had showings, you finally negotiate an offer, all of those things. Now you have to wait because conditions take time. Most commonly, financing and home inspection, buyers and their realtor will ask for 10 to 14 days for those conditions. There's no set rule around the amount of time, but 10 to 14 days is pretty typical, I would say. Usually the buyer wants to get their financing approved first because they don't want to pay $400 or $500 for a home inspection until they know their financing is solid and that they will be able to move forward with a mortgage on that property. Remember that mortgages are approved based on a specific property. So even though hopefully the buyer is pre-approved with their mortgage broker, now the mortgage broker has to go to the underwriters with that specific property, the details on that property, and get financing approval on that house. So there's quite a bit to financing. And one thing to be aware of is that financing is getting more and more difficult on residential property. The banks, the Office of the Superintendent of Financial Institutions has laid out stricter and stricter criteria for qualifying homebuyers in Canada. It's getting to be a challenge in Alberta with the sluggish economy. Folks' incomes aren't what they used to be, job stability, employment, all those things. So, we guesstimate 10 to 12% of all deals, conditional deals, offers collapse, and that a good portion of those are due to financing. So you don't want to be one of those buyers. And as a homeowner, you want to know that we are pre-qualifying the buyers when they make an offer and finding out, okay, how far along are they with financing? Do they have pre-approval? Can they actually afford to buy this house? And will they get approved from the bank? So lots of questions to be asked. But really, once you accept that offer as the homeowner, you are waiting now. So the house now goes conditional on the realtor's MLS system. The market doesn't see that conditional status, but we, the realtors, generally will see that there is a pending offer on that property. So once you have a conditional accepted offer, quite often you will get less showings because people now know that you have an offer. Not always a bad thing, but there's different ways to do that. But now the buyer's got to go back to their mortgage person and get that financing finalized and approved. You as the homeowner don't have a ton of control over that, other than answering some questions if the buyer or their mortgage person has questions. And then once they get financing approved, then they're going to get a home inspection. A home inspection is where we see all kinds of interesting and unpredictable behavior from all parties involved. Home inspections can create so much chaos and stress, and I'm telling you, it does not have to be like that. But the buyer, if they have a home inspection condition, they have a right to bring their home inspector in and have that house inspected. Now, the home inspector's job is really just to report on what they see. They cannot be biased. They cannot try and favor, one party over another and sway how they report. They're just there to report on what they see in the house. They're going to look at the building envelope. They're going to look at the systems in the house, the furnace, the roof, basically anything that they can see and take a look at. They are not specialists in any particular area. They are licensed as a home inspector. But that report will help the buyer understand what they're buying. The purpose of a home inspection is to protect the buyer. It is not to be used as a weapon to beat up the seller. However, if the buyer finds something seriously wrong that is deficient with the home, that can become a negotiating chip. It is still at the discretion of the seller if they want to negotiate on that deficiency. So that 10 to 14 days while you have those inspections hanging in the air, it is stressful for you as the homeowner, because how much control do you really have over what the home buyer is doing and thinking? And usually they have their own realtor representing them. So, just be aware that your house is not sold until the buyer has been able to meet their conditions and they're satisfied with their conditions. Only once the buyer is satisfied with their financing and home inspection conditions, then they submit a waiver, they remove those conditions, and now you have a legally binding sale of that home. And then from there until closing day, you're basically packing boxes and getting ready to move, and the buyer's getting ready to move in. So I see a lot of confusion out there around conditional offers. And there's a lot of misunderstanding. So again, just because you have the offer doesn't mean that you're done. And you have to be open-minded about what's going to unfold, especially with a home inspection. I see it so often that homeowners say, well, my house is great, it's perfect, I've lived here, I know everything about my house. But home inspectors take a different look at the home, right? They're going to get up on that roof and take a look. They're going to look for hail damage. They're going to see what condition the shingles are in. They're going to take a close look at your furnace, because furnaces can present safety issues. They're going to look at the downspouts, look at the grading on the house. Is the water, draining away from the house or toward the house? Things like that. And these are common issues that I see. And sometimes homeowners are just innocently unaware. And that's another thing that, as your realtor, when we're going to list the home, I'm going to walk around the house, and just if there's any red flags that I think might need a closer look by an expert, I'm going to tell you that. I'm going to tell you what I think buyers might zero in on, right? I'm not a home inspector, but I can look around at the condition of the home, and things that maybe aren't obvious to you could jump out to a buyer and maybe a home inspector. And they're things that you can get ahead of before you go on the market. So conditional offer is not a final sale until the buyer has removed or waived all those conditions. The seller may have conditions on occasion as well. If you have any questions about how offers to purchase work, you can call me or text 382-7335 or find me at carrieflatla.com. Have a terrific weekend, and we'll see you for next Friday Fire.